So start the proceedings, start at the top of the show.
Now,
what's great is this is even a classic by the numbers topic, because I would say, by the way, Semmler, if I think of the major stories that by the numbers sort of almost been an oral history of documenting, I would say the Astralis saga has got to be top of the list, because if people don't know, way back in the day, Richard was the one who got all the initial stories on Astralis.
Yes, exactly.
Like, you have to understand, there was little rumors behind the scenes of maybe, for example, behind the scenes, you'd hear oh, that's weird. So not only is Astralis started, but then I've heard some of the same people want to fund this heroic team. And then they're doing Godsent with products as well. You'd be going I wonder what the plan is eventually. Because remember, same as the ES Force guys, they were sort of buying up some properties. But what people didn't know, because half the people, funny enough, as you're about to find out in this story, who even work for the major sites, the biggest people in the world, don't have the connections Richard does. Also don't necessarily understand the industry the same way, don't have the same lens to know how things can connect. And I've always thought one area me and Richard have been very good in, probably a mixture of cynicism and all the experience we have, is we're pretty good at reading between the lines. We can sort of we can either get the mega source that can tell you what's going on, or just guess, and then later on you'll find out through educated guesses a lot of those will actually be true. Essentially that's a journalist. That's what you do. You just poke in that area. Oh, it turns out there was something there. I can see where the source pointed me but didn't say what was there. So anyway, this topic is right in this wheelhouse. So let's start out. What is the topic we're talking about now?
Well, the topic right now is that there's another HUNDEN Astralis fiasco underway.
Amazingly, yeah. You would think, how could there be? What else is there left?
You really do wonder how they keep making it happen. You really do, and there's some details in this story as well that really get out there, where they're trying to find every little bit. So I was just trying to go back and find it. Thankfully, obviously, Richard is a pro, and so he includes the links to his sources, and how he comes to his points and all that. And so you have all the ESIC bans from the different periods of time. HUNDEN has had several due to some of the scandals that he's been a part of, the coach bug being one, and the heroic, I was about to say heroic bug, but the heroic file transfer between Astralis and himself, and all sorts of weird shit going down, where he literally got sued. That's another. So if you go back, this is Richard's article, so he continues to live on in the show as well. But this is Richard's article where he's pointing out that allegedly, according to sources, HUNDEN has been part of Astralis, or providing coach-like services to Astralis players, despite the fact that for a period of time of a year, he was not supposed to be doing a coach. He was not supposed to be able to have any kind of contact at all with anybody, essentially, that was tied to ESIC. So that means coach, analyst, whatever, you're out. But once that ban is out, he is still under a ban that's a little bit more vague from what I've been able to gather. So the second ban is the one relating to heroic. And this is one where he's banned from events that are tied to ESIC. That's what's clear there. And so that's where I think Astralis are kind of finding the way. And he points this out in the article, and it's kind of what I took away from it as well, where it feels like under this second ban that provides more leeway, that isn't as clear in terms of you're banned from everything. Astralis are trying to pull a fast one on the community by saying, well, he's not technically working for us. He's working for a brand that we own large shares in, a large share of. And so he's not technically working for Astralis. He's working for them to create content for them. And through that content, he then comes into contact with the players, and he's not necessarily doing anything with the players apart from creating that content. But what Richard alleges, and what is apparently alleged by these sources, is that HUNDEN has been actually handling an analyst coach role in the meantime, through this connection. So I think that sums up where we're at. HUNDEN is allegedly coaching or serving as an analyst for Astralis, when, if you want to go by the ESIC stuff, and if you want to get into the ethical stuff, he shouldn't be. So what's your take on this whole fiasco, man? Because it started blowing up on Twitter as well. You got Stryker, who started commenting on how there's a specific sentence, and I can bring it up.
We can get to that. Wait there a sec. What we'll do is this: we'll split it up into parts. So first of all, we'll address it as if it's just Richard's article. Because spoiler, that'll sort of I'll build the groundwork here for how we'll get to the Stryker point. Because this is what we'll do: we'll use Stryker's question for what he was using it for. He just did it slightly obnoxiously, which is trying to clarify a point. What did Richard exactly mean by that? So what we'll do, except the difference is we'll just politely ask instead of inferring he obviously was trying to scam you and pretend what the fuck this guy's angle was. So the basic story obviously is the angle that HUNDEN in some capacity is working for Astralis. That's story one, right? Now that in alone, you can stop right there, Semmler. You don't need any more info. You don't need to know if he's coaching, because here's the problem: just working for Astralis is outrageous. Now that's confirmed by Astralis, because remember, fans, in 2020, after the heroic cheating scandal involving HUNDEN, one of the teams they did it against was Astralis, famously. And so what happened when the initial story came out about Hunden was Nicola Nyholm, the good old piece of shit behind Refresh and Astralis and all these orgs, by the way, Blast as well. He actually came along and did a tweet where he tagged them, I think, including Hunden. It was the players and Hunden, so it was like Katie and all those guys in the row at the time. And he basically said something like, I want to see you guys in my office, like explain what's going on. Now, first of all,
still up too.
It is. He's a shameless cunt, so why would he ever take it down? First of all, one thing that's hilarious about that is, if you know the story, like I alluded to, of years earlier, when him and his company used to be denying that they owned multiple teams, etc. That's weird how you're talking about Heroic, who's not Astralis, bro. You're only publicly really famously associated with Astralis. Why are you talking about how they would you're talking to them as though they were almost an employee of yours who should come into your office? Like, it's a weird way to phrase it there, So already that in itself sort of belies how he sees the Heroic players. But that in itself is a key detail, because two things. One, that ties into the fact that later on, that's why me and Richard last year, you can go back on the show, even speculated something like this was happening, as in maybe Astralis, through Nicola Nyholm, was using Hunden to destroy their rival Heroic, who'd sold out to a bigger company and was now better than them in the game. Then the other part to say, obviously, is the part that when he asked them to come in like that, because it included Hunden, the minimum inference there should be, I don't like you. You have cheated against me. I obviously think this is bad. That's why I'm publicly calling it out. It wouldn't be, but come see me and work for me and cheat for me. Like, it wouldn't be that, would it? That would be the one thing you wouldn't be doing if you were calling out that way, would it? Like that part wouldn't make sense. Like, the joke is, by that analogy, if that made any sense, that would be like when Frankie goes, we have to be careful not to work with people who will kill our friends. Someone was like, I would kill your friends, but I'll give you 4 times more. And then she'd be like, 4 times. Like, she's not doing that, is she? Is she? No, technically she hasn't yet, so we'll find it. Maybe for a future episode for that one. I'm seeding the fucking storyline there. So there's the first angle. Just that in itself is kind of wild, right? What do you think of that? The fact that, essentially, the fact that he now does work for them, dude. Because remember, the other part that connected in last year was when he was supposedly going to join, if you remember, right afterwards was that scandal with the
that was the scandal.
And the Google Drive, and that he'd given Google access to Astralis. But then this was the twist, remember? The twist was, wait a minute, but the call was coming from inside the building. It was Astralis that reported it to ESL. Now, the problem with that story, Semmler, is the main upside of them reporting it wasn't, that means Astralis doesn't want 100. It was destroy Heroic. The joke was that was like them telling their suicide bomber, blow up the bomb. But I'll die. I don't care about that bit. You just blow up the bomb. Like, you're here to destroy the building. I don't care about you. You're just a brainwashed player. Like, that's what they were doing. So the first of all is that angle, right? So already it looks terrible initially that in any capacity, 100 is working for Astralis. And they haven't announced it in any capacity publicly. Now, they obviously say in this article,
exactly,
we don't announce it. It's like, I get that. But the point is, it's not like if we looked in the back room, like, look, and who's that in the creche? Jimmy Savile works here. Well, we don't announce it. I mean, he's dead, but I purposely picked a really famous, but you get the premise, in that scenario, obviously it'd be outrageous, wouldn't it? You're not gonna, the point is, this is a very controversial figure who's directly associated with your org. And by the way, the first assumption, even if you were to find out that this person worked there, would be these sorts of things, similar, because this person is a legendary coach and talent scout, things that Astralis desperately need.
Yes.
So because that's the first assumption, Semmler, that's why you didn't publicly announce it, because people might even say with no sources, wonder if there's anything going on there. Didn't they say? So there already, that's all bullshit, right? So you can get that part of the story, chuck it out. Like, essentially, the only parts of the story you can comment on there are things that I think are fairly slam dunk, no matter what you think of Hunden. Like, would he probably be a good person to hire as a coach? Yeah, it seems like it. If you're not going to spend money like Astralis isn't, and you're getting the Bobskis and the Lockies of the world, and the Farleys, would you want someone like Hunden and work with them? Yeah, probably. Seems like exactly the guy at Tier 2 who would have been these guys IGL and would. So it's all a slam dunk. Like I even said last year, I totally get why Astralis would want to work with him. In fact, I even said, this is where I've fucking nailed so many angles on this show. I even said once Hunden was initially banned, if I was another org, even if he's publicly banned, you just have a fake guy there as the coach. You just have Hunden do it, except at the event. Like, remember, coach isn't IGL. You don't really talk on. Like, you could not be at the game. You could hand in like pre-game report. You could have a guy who just, like the Inner Shine guy did for FaZe. You could have a guy just stand there and just do the basic coaching.
This is what the analysis does.
Yeah, you could do this. So, yes. So if the idea is, if he really is some super genius, let's be real, Hunden seems to be very good at certain aspects of his job. If you really are that good, it might be worth taking the downside and taking the upside of secretly doing. Because the point I always said was, how are they going to prove it? Like I say, unless you're at the event stood behind them, you can just remember the joke is, even if you did this like Jason Bourne style, they could just go meet him at a coffee shop right outside the fucking Astralis headquarters, couldn't they? And just have conversations, and he could just give, oh, here's a picture I drew. Just happens to be fucking Dust 2 with all arrows on it. You know what I mean? Like, you could get away with any of these things of plausible deniability. So that angle's whatever. But then you get into, I actually think through talking about the stupid striker clarification, you get into the real topic, because I'm going to explain now. It's going to be a 5-minute welcome to esports journalism 101 striker. This is what would happen, mate.
Hold on. Do you want context real quick on what? I have the phrase. I think we've narrowed it down. I have the phrase highlighted that I think.
Yes, go on. Set it up.
Pick this all off. All right. So this is in Richard's article. But sources that contacted DeSerto stated that he has actually been working. He, as in HUNDEN, has actually been working with the team in a role that he would be precluded from doing in an official capacity at events under the conditions of his ESIC ban. Astralis denied these claims. So this sentence, this is what kicks it off, is that according to Striker HLTV, these guys, that are getting into it, it's that this sentence may not be clear enough for them, where it's like in a role. Well, what role would that be? Would it be coach role, analyst role, any of these roles? Like what role would he be in that he is banned currently in doing? Because the follow-up to that is that the follow-up is that the first ban that blocked HUNDEN, when he was part of the 3 coaches that got nailed, Dead, HUNDEN, Mechanogun, the first ban for ESIC was that, let's see, of course I freaking scroll past it and now I don't have it in front of me anymore. Okay. A ban in this context means that an individual may not work in any capacity, be accredited for, provide services to, attend, or otherwise be involved in any ESIC member organization's activities, events, tournaments, or matches, including providing services in any capacity to any participating team. Basically, just cut you off completely. Now, that ban ended over a year ago. The second ban that is still in play, and which is why I think Richard worded it the way that he did, is this one. The sanction issued according to ESIC. Accordingly, ESIC has issued Mr. Peterson with a sanction banning him from all ESIC member events for breaching Article 2.4.5, blah, blah. But like banning him from all, but they don't specify. It's just, he's just banned from events.
Yeah.
So this is why I think Richard worded the article the way that he did, and why we're having this back and forth now about like, what actually is it? Is he banned for coaching? Is he banned for analysts? Are they breaking the rule, or are they not? Because if he's not in the venue, if he's not actually in the venue, then is he actually going against ESIC's ban? Because ESIC aren't saying like they're not as clear as they were with the first with the first coach bug ban, where it's just like, you are persona non grata, you are untouchable. In the second ban that he's still under for another year, it's kind of just like he can't attend the event is the takeaway. So I think that's the point that Striker's trying to make, and he's trying to go for it. And Richard is obviously trying to say like he is acting as a coach. So what's your take, just to clear everything up? So, or I hope that clears everything up for everybody, but that's the context that we're going into now.
Let's do it. Right. First of all, basically, I was about to get into this. This is where I'm just going to essentially do the job of whatever the editor-in-chief of Striker should do, or his fucking boss, or whoever trained him in journalism. I mean, first of all, to explain how this works. But in doing so, I'm just going to point out at the beginning, this would be a perfectly fine question. On its own, it's all right, Semmler. The problem is, one, if you know the history of Striker / HLTV staff and me and Richard, which is they just endlessly attempt to pick holes in what we do because they can never find any. And because they're annoyed that this is what esports is like, by the way. Esports basically is like you call someone out for doing something actually wrong. They don't go, well, I was called out for doing something wrong. They go, you called me out. That's what hurt my feelings. You're being horrible to me. I'm going to be horrible back to you and call you out. It's like, I haven't done anything though. But I'm just going to have to make something up then, because now that would equal the feeling that I got from you when you called me out, which was hurting my feelings. It's like, yeah, but again, I didn't do anything though. So why should my feelings be hurt? Because mine were, it's like just some stupid, like, it's like a 4-year-old kid on the playground, mate. They don't like understand reality. They don't even seem to connect their actions with what's happening and what the other person was like. He blocked me for no reason. It's like, didn't you tell him to kill himself? Well, yeah, but you don't. You know what I mean? Like, have you noticed how everyone? Yeah, but as soon as they go, yeah, but it's just like you've just
there's always that but.
Some bullshit's just coming in right after it.
Yeah, why is it got to be the but?
Why you never have a convo with these people? You never actually having an argument. That's just the first cab of the train. They've got an infinite amount of trains that can be attached to the back wagons. Like shit extra arguments that they'll switch to if you just change the first one. So anyway, right, Striker, his problem is because they've been so critical and they've always tried to find the bullshit negative. Like, famously, I think one of the most egregious stories ever was when Professor said that mad claim that, like, we were intentionally view-botting by just showing fucking Flashpoint reruns on Faceit. Spoiler, ESL has pretty much always done that with ESEA. When he even said that, I clicked on ESEA myself and saw them bring an Australian game that I would never watch. And then the best part is, a year later, Professor just worked with ESL, has never called ESL out for that ever in his entire life. So that just makes you look like a piece of shit who's trying to fuck with me and Richard. So the problem here with the way he phrased it goes, it is Semmler. He says that part, as you say, it's totally fine to go, what role would it be? It's totally fine to even so it doesn't really specify. But when he says rather vague information here, I'm sorry, the inference there, quite clearly, if you understand the history of our dynamic and what the story is, there's two of them. One is either that Richard doesn't know and Richard's just trying to sort of like, ooh, but maybe there's something going on, ooh. But really, he's the faker who doesn't have the inside sources. Not Striker, who definitely doesn't have them clearly and doesn't know what's going on and it's just found out now. And because he's just found out now, he's going, fuck, think of a question, man. You've got to have your angle. There's your angle. It's too vague, everyone. Why is it vague? Like, are you Nicolas Cage, by the way? That's why you fucking come off on Twitter, mate. Just a fucking fool. And there's like a solid fucking 50-50 chance whether it's utter shit what you say or there's something meaningful. Great good analogy of Nicolas Cage. He's a great movie actor, or is he the worst actor ever? Depends on that movie. Depends
on the movie.
Exactly. So what I would say is this. When he says it like that, that is what it implies. Or the other inference is, like, Richard didn't do his job because Richard just left it open. And what you should do is quite specifically say. Now, the reason I hate that second angle, but we'll get into it in a sec, is because it's what every fan does. If you ever tell someone, I did it the other day, guys, watch out because in esports, it's such a corrupt industry right now without oversights that, like, I've heard a story that someone who was credibly accused of rape works on a broadcast, and they'll be like, we'll say the name then. It's like, look, I've already done something. I've done some more than nothing, right? You've done nothing. You've never caught anyone. You've never fucking outed anyone. I've already done what I can do now. I'm not in a position where I can make a legal claim against them. I don't want to go to court. Maybe it's not my story, but what I'm doing is making sure some info gets out there so something good can be done. But like a little shit, because you're all used to watching TV and drama, and you want to go, but hey, what is going to happen on The Mandalorian? You think this is The Mandalorian? This is real life, motherfucker. This isn't like a show. But tell me, Richard, exactly what you're claiming he's doing. So let's get into the actual angle. Essentially, I'll do what Richard, if he wanted to just show this fucking clown up, could have done. So as you say, he said the sentence because Richard asks him, well, what's he talking about? First of all, it's obvious that basically Striker, I'll give him this, he's obviously not someone whose first language, his mother tongue was not English. It was like, I think he's from Czech Republic or something, Serbia or something, one of the two. I forget which. It's one of the two, one of those countries. So obviously, true, grammar and syntax could throw you off. I think genuinely, Semmler, this starts just with a misunderstanding of English, because when I go for that exact sentence, I go to where it is. Here's what it says. It's a paragraph, right? It's a whole paragraph, a really long run-on sentence. It says, the organization says that he has been working with their players to create a series of tutorial materials as an element of a partnership with esports training program AIM Lab, which you obviously all know. It's what Tens and Scream and all those guys are shooting the dots of, isn't it? But sources that contacted Deserto stated that he has actually been working with the team in a role that he would be precluded from doing in an official capacity at events under the conditions of his ESIC ban. Astralis deny these claims. This is where I actually think Striker either A, doesn't understand English, in which case, by the way, when you're speaking to people whose native language is English and they are like 20 or 15-year professionals, treat them with the respect that maybe they know English, you fucking wanker, and ask them what they mean. Don't just be like, oh, I think I've caught you. No, you haven't caught anything. It's not vague, right? What he's saying there isn't vague at all. Think about what he's saying. He isn't saying it's even wrong. He's saying that HUNDEN is doing a job right now, i.e. coaching, that if he tried to go to an event and do, like coach them at an event, he's precluded from events by the ESIC ban, so he wouldn't be able to do it at events. But he's doing it not at the events. This story is telling you it seems like HUNDEN is secretly coaching, and later they even admit he does work for them. They're famous liars who you can't trust with the truth, but even they admit he works for them. Obviously, he couldn't coach them at events right now, so it wouldn't even help them to say he's coaching them. And then finally, they even say they'll give him a job when he joins. So if he's been secretly coaching the whole time, eventually they'll just go public with it, which is why this whole story's really interesting, isn't it? And especially because, like I say, this is Astralis. It's not like another org we don't know. This is one of the slipperiest fish of all time. So it's actually obvious they'd be vague like this. The story, by the way, is a mega story. It's like maybe HUNDEN has been secretly coaching Astralis and will be their future coach. And Striker's sort of going, there's almost nothing in this story, is there? For a moron like you. And then finally, like I say, there's the angle that, like I say, I think he just wants him to spell it out. He wants Richard just right? Hunden is definitely coaching Astralis, even though, well, where's his contract, Richard? Where's his contract, bro? It's a fucking secret agreement, isn't it, you moron? The whole premise, I'll flip it the other way around. You think they've been secretly harbouring Hunden, someone who cheated against their org and who publicly they've hated on, just so he could design silly tutorials for fucking AIM Lab? Do you have even half a brain? I know you work for a website that used to literally have an advertisement that said, get rich fast. You know, like that's like what the devil says in a fucking movie when he comes out of a genie. You can't, like, what are you, like a lamp or something? Get rich fast, son. Don't you want the world, son? Don't you want HLTV, son? Like, you guys have fucking lost your plot. Like, you're already gone in terms of all this shit. So anyway, this is where it gets silly, because that in itself, by the way, I think it's just a breakdown of the story, basically. I suspect, as you can imagine, we'll do a little bit of a side detail here. Obviously, the reason why it's plausible as well, Semmler, is because they've had a lack at the coach position. They lost Zonic, obviously, the greatest coach of all time, who built their whole org. Now, instead, what did they do, guys? Well, we know they were in and out. They didn't know what they were going to do. Then they brought in Ave. Well, remember, Ave's band, and quite frankly, Ave didn't have the tenure to get that gig. His job at North didn't make him seem good enough. And on top of it, they didn't even keep him very long. That means he could have been a front coach. Then what did they do, Semmler? They instantly promoted Trace, who'd been doing their academy squad. Now he is the coach. So the point is, the whole time it could have just been Hunden, or it could be them and Hunden, or it could be them mainly and Hunden as assistant. There's a million angles. And by the way, if you had him in your org, wouldn't you be a fool not to use him? Like, what? Imagine getting all these rookie coaches and going, "Nah, I'll gamble the whole team on you. Hunden, don't say anything to him, mate. Even off the record, when no one could ever catch you ever." You wouldn't, would you? In that scenario,
why are they meeting up for coffee twice a week?
You'd find some way that he'd get the info out there, wouldn't you? At a minimum, you'd have him at least like say stuff to the coaches or help the coaches or whatever. So that part even makes sense to me. And then, as I say, this puts a whole new light on that story last year of the Cologne and the Google Drive, because that initially made it seem like actually the Astralis were the good guys. They were aiding the FBI in their investigation into this evil criminal. But actually, what you find out in this case is, what was the outcome? Who benefits, as they used to say in Latin, right? Well, I'll tell you who benefited massively. Astralis. It got their main rival, who was now getting bought out and going way bigger places in the world, made them look foolish, perpetuated the idea their results aren't legit, and on top of it, was potentially going to allow you to not only take their coach, but fuck them up the arse on the way out the door. So, like, that to me, even though at the time it looked like it was a bit gone out, I think ultimately Nicolamo got him what he wanted. He fucked with the heroic. Those guys were even crying and all fucking breaking down and everything. Like, essentially, if you wanted to rattle them, you got to them. If you wanted to get some revenge on them, you got to them.
In a big way.
On some level, you almost scorched earth them. Yeah, you did a great job. So there's that whole angle. Now, here's the problem I have with this whole topic. The other angle to say is this. You know, Glaive and all those other players also have a problem with all that cheating. But not only do you allow Ave, who cheated the same way, to coach you, but then this cunt's secretly in the building. The guy who did the cheating. And you're just cool with that, Glaive. Like, in that case, shut the fuck up, mate. You don't care about cheating. You love cheaters. You're surrounded by them. Like, you've got Nicola and I who cheats in business. You've got fucking Ave who cheated and got banned. You've got Hunden who cheats. Like, fucking hell, mate. I'd watch out. Tell you what.
Well, just remember, the players don't have any decisions in terms of roster or organization. Remember, it's all. Hey, in theory with Astralis, right? We're just I don't know why I'm throwing Glaive a lifeline here, but there's just a little bit of a
no, that one's not that bad. I'm just saying it's a bad look, mate. Like, if you're going to talk shit on that topic, like, it's like the thing. Basically, this is the same thing Carrigan and all those guys did. It's when they were implied, like, it's like I'll give you the example. It's like when Simple was said something like, like, cheat bug, like, you should not be allowed in the games. Like, you literally cheated and were banned, you fucking cunt. Like, of all the people who can't talk about that, it's you, Simple. Like, you are if that was just in VAC instead of ESL you never play your entire career again. It's over. Like, there is no Simple at that point. You're just a fucking fool who has like no money whatsoever in Ukraine. That's it. That's just the end of your story. Like, that wouldn't be me. That would be League of Legends or any other game than CSGO. You actually hit the fucking lottery ticket on that one. So, but as usual, people always do throw. What they do with this Semmler is they go, problem is when I throw this stone, it's going to break my glass house. So I better throw the biggest stone possible. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they never get that premise.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.